In New York morning trade, we are looking at Bitcoin recovering the 87,000 level. Well, 2025, the year that crypto is no longer just a speculative trade. It is increasingly being recognized as a strategic asset by governments, corporations, and institutional investors, a shift that accelerated this year. The long-term impact may be unclear, but the signal is clear. Bitcoin gaining acceptance as a long-term asset, sparking questions about whether crypto's traditional 4-year cycle still holds. Well, joining me live here at the New York Stock Exchange is Patrick Liou, who's Director of Institutional at Gemini. Patrick, great to have you back. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, it's great to be here again.
Well, we're counting down the days until year-end and 2026. So give us your take when it comes to the 4-year cycle.
Yeah, so the Bitcoin 4-year cycle narrative is one that has resonated with many Bitcoin investors over the years. I think going to year end and looking ahead next year, Bitcoin has the opportunity to disprove that going into next year. You're seeing the ecosystem really mature and evolve over the years. We have more investment vehicles, fiat to crypto, on-ramp, off-ramps, and gateways to access crypto now. You're seeing realized volatility really structurally come down over the years, signifying a maturity and more market participants in the asset class. And really we have a constructive macro and policy backdrop going into next year. So it's going to be a pretty pivotal year next year to be able to disprove that 4-year cycle.
And when we take a look at price action for the crypto majors this year, it has been a volatile year, but it's also been the same for other asset classes as well, whether we're talking about equities or commodities. So what do you make of what we saw in terms of Bitcoin, especially since we are looking at red year to date so far?
Yeah, I think the returns have been a little bit disappointing, right? Right now we're looking to close negative on the year. Certain pockets that have been more speculative, whether it's AI and a lot of the high growth stocks, especially in tech, have kind of lagged a little bit in terms of performance, even though they've had pockets of outperformance. We obviously had a great 2024 leading in the first half of this year. I think we're going through a period of consolidation right now.
And when it comes to the role of digital asset treasury companies, what do you expect to see, not just heading into the new year, but also beyond?
Sure. So digital asset treasury companies, I think, were the meta for the first half of 2025. You saw a lot of companies spin up vehicles to invest in Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, etc. That has kind of been exhausted a little bit. You're actually seeing a lot of the MNAVs compress to a point where some of these companies are even trading at a discount to their MNAV. For these to stay relevant over time, and I think it will, it's just these companies have to demonstrate it's not just a vehicle to own spot crypto exposure, because you could do that by owning spot underlying holdings. You could do that through access through an ETF. Really, I think some of these stocks and companies will get rewarded with premiums over their MNAV if they can demonstrate the ability to tap into financial capital markets and creatively financial engineer some of these structures to create leverage and deliver shareholder value. The ones that don't will be trade at a discount to their MNAV because you have to pay management teams and there's other expenses, so forth. And I do think in 2026 we could see a period of M&A activity where larger ones kind of absorb up the smaller ones, which then gives some of these companies the ability to scale their operations and really be like the lead horses going forward. I think there'll be a few different ones, whether it's in the US or other jurisdictions, to create that access to capital still.
Yeah, and speaking of 2026, Patrick, next year is midterm election year. So how do you see digital assets and crypto being a topic that people on both sides of the aisle will be focusing on?
Sure. So if we rewind to the last 2024 elections, the one side of the aisle really embraced crypto while the other side shunned it, right? And in some states, in some elections, those razor-thin margins proved to be pivotal. I think the Democratic side should and will embrace crypto, and there are, I think, certain factions within the Democratic Party that have demonstrated a willingness to engage and embrace crypto and work meaningfully with the industry, along with the Republican side of the House. So it'll just become a mainstream thing that both sides of the aisle engage in. One example is right now the market structure bill in the Senate that just was announced it was going to be delayed, right? Like that's, I guess, a little bit of a setback, although not completely unexpected, but there has been reports where both sides of the aisle have been engaging with the Senate Banking Chair Tim Scott to work out compromises so that this could be advanced in the first quarter of next year. I think we'll see that all throughout into the election cycle as candidates try to drum up votes to win their respective races.
And Patrick, finally, before I let you go, since we're talking about Bitcoin, another asset class I do want to get your take on is gold, in particular digital gold. So when we look at the precious metals market, we know that there's been an outperformance, double-digit gains as we head into year-end in terms of percentages. So what is your thesis on digital gold?
I think digital gold, aka Bitcoin, is a better store of wealth than actual physical gold, right? It's more easily transferable, it could be fractionalized, and I think one of my personal hot takes is you're going to see at least one sovereign nation announce and execute rotating some of their gold holdings to buy Bitcoin. It could be the US, it could be other countries that have high gold to GDP ratio, or any country that may want to diversify away from the US dollar as the global reserve currency.
And before I let you go, tell us a little bit more about Gemini prediction markets.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for bringing that up. Gemini launched prediction markets yesterday. We're very excited about that. This is a culmination of a 5-year process to get the license from the CFTC. We think prediction markets have the ability to be really impactful within financial markets. It empowers the user and investors to make predictions on specific outcomes and events. It also offers people the ability to hedge against their positions against certain outcomes. I think 2026 is when you see some of that really come on to the mainstream, and we think that's going to be powered mostly by crypto players in 2026.
Well, Patrick, a lot to keep our eyes on as we head into the new year. So thank you so much for joining us, and look forward to welcoming you back in the new year.
Thanks a lot, Remy. Appreciate it.